Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 Creative Coach. In this episode, I want to discuss podcast subscriptions. Now, if you're unaware, Apple has introduced the notion that people can now subscribe to podcasts for money. Okay, so for a fee. So what subscription truly means. And that's why if you haven't been paying attention to it now, for just podcasts in general through Apple Podcasts, it's no longer called a subscribe, it's called a follow, much like with social media, because follow implies more free, whereas subscribe means you're having to pay for something, right? So that's the model that Apple Podcasts is moving into. And Spotify is also introducing something similar as well, and I'm sure other companies will do the same. Now, one of the things to note is that if you use Apple specifically, you have to pay them a fee, and it gets cheaper, second year and so forth after that. But overall, there's a fee involved, and I'm sure there will be with Spotify. And you have to upload it through their sort of portal, okay? And I actually don't think this is a bad thing, because ultimately the reason I can see this for what it is because this ensures the security aspect of it. Because there have been other podcasts that are, quote, premium, meaning someone has to pay for them, that get leaked out, But certainly Apple has the means through, a thumbprint and through like Apple Pay and so forth, be able to verify purchases and so forth, and make it a lot more difficult to be able to just freely share the subscription podcast. No different than, it's not like I can just easily share a Netflix video with you, right? Now, yes, I understand that people share passwords with each other, and that's different. But I can't just send you whatever Netflix movie, right? Like, it doesn't work like that. Which, has unfortunately been the case with past premium models, or at least some of them, right? And so this just ups the security. Now, of course, this kind of then makes it, it's for the security reason, but of course, from the Apple perspective, now, if you're someone that loves a certain podcast and want to listen to it and you have to subscribe, then it's like, okay, well, I might as well use the Apple Podcast app for all the other stuff as well, because I'm going to be on there anyway to be able to listen to the subscription stuff. So yes, it definitely, kind of pushes the consumer, the medium is the message type of thing, as Marshall McLuhan would call it. So we'll see how this all kind of plays out. Now, one of the interesting things is going to be how this is adopted. I think people have to think about it, what constitutes as premium content that would be worth subscribing to people. And because it's certainly it can't be like a land rush for everybody to just say, all right, I'm going to go premium now and just charge everything. Because in some sense, once you do that, let's say you get one subscriber and it's like $5 a month, and now you're committed to that, to deliver regardless of, if it's just one subscriber or thousands. So that can be a thing, you really want to be strategic of how you do it. And maybe it is bonus content, maybe it is the podcast at hand. I don't know. I think it's something that a lot of podcasters will have to do some self-reflection on. And what's interesting to me is I remember Tim Ferriss doing an experiment like this, and one of the things that he was going to do a test without ads for 6 months, and instead, do kind of this subscription type model. And what he had learned was that people actually because of the nature of Tim's vetting system of these ads, they actually appreciated because the products that he was advertising were beneficial to them, number one. Number two, it of course allowed Tim to be paid, but it didn't come out of the pockets of the listeners. And so that was another benefit, right? And so, he was very open about it, that, his switch over to that model was a huge failure, and he learned a lot from that. And so now he continues to run ads. And so I'm curious to see how people approach this, because in a way, it's almost like the people that already have advertising, I feel like they're going to be the ones doing this. And it's like they're not the ones that need to make the finances off it, because they're already making money off the advertising. If anything, I would love to see support for some of the more indie podcasts in this way, no different than like a Patreon and stuff like that, because they don't have that advertising or, the push that the bigger podcasts such as a Tim Ferriss has. So we'll see. Now, at the same time, it's not like everyone vets the advertising in the same way that Tim does. Tim is very meticulous about it in terms of what he promotes and what he doesn't. Not everyone does. But yeah, the landscape is changing. I think there's things to be excited about, and there's things that, just are changing. And maybe there should be some reservation and take a step back of like, let's really consider this, and I think that to me is the end all of it. I think for podcasters, a lot of thought and care should be given towards any switchover, and really respecting the audience, because I think that's what it's really all about. Of course, podcasts bring a lot of value and things like that, and certainly the good ones, right? The ones that we listen to do. But that doesn't mean that like Tim Ferriss found out, right? He brings a lot of value to his audience, but didn't like the switchover. And so, how you go about it has to be tactful. I've talked about this in the past, but I think oftentimes it's less about what you do and more about how you approach it. I talked about it with HBO Max doing day and date streaming of 2021 movies. So for example, like Godzilla vs. Kong, that came out on HBO Max the same day it came out in theaters. And people were really upset about that. Now, I didn't necessarily mind the decision personally, but the way it was handled and rolled out was kind of crap, right? And it didn't consider audience members, it didn't consider the filmmakers. And when I say filmmakers, I mean the actors as well as the cast, the entire crew, right? So yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. But I think I'm excited, and what I would love to, the one medium I would love to see kind of really enter into the podcast space, or not medium, but genre, is narrative and fiction. Because I think there's a huge disproportion of nonfiction stuff in the podcast space, which is great, but you look at all other mediums, it's a little bit more balanced. And I would love to see, and I think there's some great companies, like Q Code Media. They're doing some wonderful stuff. I think that's the stuff that makes sense, just in thinking about it, to be on a subscription model. Maybe like buying the whole season type of thing or whatever. I think there's a number of ways to play this too. And so if you are a podcast creator, get creative with it. Don't just do it just for the sake of doing it. If it makes sense, do it. If it doesn't, don't do it. But if you are going to do it, get original about it, right? Give it some thought and play with it. So that's how I'm looking at this. But there's any number of angles to look at this as a podcast for myself. These are just some of my perspectives. But if you are someone that just purely listens to podcasts, I would love to hear from you what you're thinking about all of this. As things shift into a subscription-based version, not entirely, right? Let me make that clear. It's not like everything's now switching to that. It's going to be a choice for the podcasters to make. But please, regardless, share your thoughts in the comment section or hit me up on social media at Svitek. I'd love to converse with you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.